You know that heavy feeling in your chest when you walk into a room and immediately brace yourself for what might happen next? You have learned to read the air before you speak. You monitor your tone, your timing, even the way you phrase a simple request, because somewhere along the line, normal conversation stopped feeling safe. You started carrying the weight of someone else's mood. You found yourself apologizing for things that were not your fault, walking away from conversations wondering why you felt so small, and questioning your own memory because your reality was constantly reframed. If you are exhausted from trying to be reasonable in a situation that refuses to meet you halfway, please know that your fatigue makes sense. You are not overreacting. You are not too sensitive. You are responding to a dynamic that was never designed to keep you safe or respected. The first truth you need to hold on to is simple, even if it feels difficult to accept right now. You were not the problem. The confusion you experienced, the self-doubt, the constant mental editing before speaking, these were not signs of your weakness. They were the natural result of being placed in an environment where respect was conditional, where accountability moved in one direction only, and where your boundaries were treated as obstacles rather than limits. When you are repeatedly asked to absorb blame for someone else's choices, your nervous system begins to carry that load. You start believing that if you just communicate better, adjust your expectations, or try harder, the disrespect will finally stop. But respect is not something you earn through exhaustion. It is a baseline requirement for any healthy connection. When it is absent, no amount of patience will create it. What you are dealing with is not a communication gap. It is a structural imbalance. To understand why your efforts to set boundaries have felt so frustrating, we need to look at the psychological pattern at play. In relationships shaped by narcissistic traits, boundaries are not seen as healthy limits. They are seen as challenges to control. The dynamic is built on a quiet assumption that your comfort, your time, and your emotional energy should be available on demand. When you finally draw a line, it disrupts that assumption.
The reaction you receive is rarely about the boundary itself. It is about the loss of access. This is why standard approaches to boundary setting often fail in these situations. You might try being gentle. You might try being firm. You might try explaining your needs clearly, and yet the pushback remains. That happens because the issue is not about understanding. It is about compliance. When you stop complying, the system experiences friction. The response is rarely reflection. It is escalation, deflection, or punishment disguised as hurt. Let us look at how this plays out in daily interactions, because recognizing the pattern is the first step towards stepping out of it. The first behavior you likely encountered is the steady dismissal of your needs. You would share something that mattered to you, and instead of engagement, you would receive minimization. Maybe it was a sigh, a change of subject, a comment about how you are making things too complicated, or a quiet reminder that your concerns do not measure up to what she is dealing with. Psychologically, this happens because acknowledging your needs requires emotional reciprocity, and reciprocity threatens the center of gravity in this dynamic. If your feelings are valid, they must be accommodated. If they must be accommodated, the imbalance shifts. To avoid that shift, your needs are quietly downgraded. The effect on you is gradual but deep. You begin to doubt the importance of your own experiences. You learn to shrink your requests, You tell yourself that it is easier to stay quiet than to face the dismissal. Over time, that silence does not bring peace. It brings resentment, and resentment slowly erodes your sense of self. The second pattern emerges the moment you actually assert yourself. You state a limit. You say no. You decline to participate in a conversation that has crossed a line. Instead of acceptance, you are met with a reversal. Suddenly, the focus shifts away from the original behavior and lands on your reaction. You are told you are too defensive, too rigid, too cold, or that you are making a bigger deal out of nothing. This is a protective maneuver. When accountability is avoided, attention must be redirected. By questioning your tone, your timing, or your maturity, the focus moves from what was done to how you responded. This creates a psychological trap. You start defending your right to have a boundary instead of simply holding it. You explain yourself repeatedly. You soften your stance to prove you are not the difficult one. The result is exhaustion. You leave these exchanges feeling responsible for her emotional state, as if your boundary was an attack rather than a statement of self-protection. But boundaries are not negotiations. They are declarations of what you will and will not accept. The moment you begin justifying them, you hand the power back to the dynamic. The third pattern is what keeps many people stuck long after they should have stepped back. It is the cycle of intermittent reinforcement. After a period of tension, conflict, or coldness, there is often a return to warmth. She might become attentive, affectionate, or suddenly reasonable. The relationship feels lighter. You feel relief. You think maybe things have finally shifted. This phase is not random. It serves a psychological function. It resets your tolerance level. It reminds you of what you are fighting for, and it reinforces the belief that if you just manage your behavior correctly, the good version will stay. But the good version is not a separate person. It is a reflection of how much you are accommodating. When your compliance returns, the pressure slowly builds again. The disrespect returns in familiar forms. You find yourself waiting for the cycle to reset, hoping this time it will be different. The effect is a quiet form of dependency. You begin to measure your peace by her moods. You tie your emotional stability to her cooperation. This is not love. This is conditioning. And it is the reason why stepping away feels so difficult, even when you know intellectually that the pattern will repeat. You do not need to analyze her childhood or diagnose her to understand what is happening. You only need to recognize the mechanics. When respect is inconsistent, it is not a mystery. It is a choice. When your boundaries are treated as temporary inconveniences rather than firm limits, the issue is not your delivery. It is the refusal to acknowledge them. When you feel drained after every interaction, your nervous system is giving you accurate information. It is telling you that you are in a space where your energy is not protected. Accepting this does not make you cynical. It makes you clear. Clarity is not cold. It is the foundation of self-respect. Once you see the pattern, the next step is to shift your approach. Most people try to set boundaries by hoping the other person will finally understand. They believe that if they explain it one more time, with the right words, at the right moment, the disrespect will stop. But boundaries do not work through persuasion. They work through action. A boundary is not a request for changed behavior. It is a statement of what you will do when a line is crossed. The difference is subtle but essential. When you focus on changing her, you remain trapped in her emotional field. When you focus on your own response, you step back into your own. This is where calm detachment becomes your greatest tool. Detachment is not indifference. It is not punishment. It is the quiet decision to stop investing your energy in trying to manage someone else's reactions. It means you stop arguing about whether your needs are valid. You stop trying to prove that you are reasonable. You simply act in alignment with your limits, regardless of the response you receive. Setting boundaries correctly in this context requires a shift in structure. First, your limit must be clear and simple. Do not over-explain. Do not attach conditions. State what you will accept and what you will not. Second, your consequence must be within your control. You cannot control whether she apologizes, whether she changes, or whether she sees your perspective. You can only control your presence. If a boundary is crossed, you remove yourself from the situation. You step away from the conversation. You limit contact. You do not announce your withdrawal as a threat. You simply follow through. This is not manipulation. This is self-protection. When you act consistently, the dynamic loses its fuel. The escalation becomes irrelevant because you are no longer participating in the exchange. The pushback may intensify at first. That is normal. When a familiar pattern is disrupted, the system tries to restore it. Your calm consistency is what breaks the cycle. There is a psychological reason why this works. Narcissistic dynamics thrive on engagement. They require your emotional investment to maintain their shape. When you stop investing, when you stop defending, explaining, or trying to fix the imbalance, the structure collapses under its own weight. You will notice that the need to punish you for setting a limit often fades when there is no longer an audience.
The guilt trips lose their grip when you no longer feel responsible for her disappointment. The minimization stops landing when you no longer doubt your own reality. This is not about winning. It is about disengaging from a game that was never designed for your well-being. You are not trying to teach her a lesson. You are teaching yourself how to honor your own limits. As you practice this, you will likely encounter internal resistance. You may feel guilty for stepping back. You may worry that you are being too harsh or that you are giving up on the relationship too soon. That guilt is a familiar visitor. It comes from years of being trained to prioritize her comfort over your own. It does not mean you are doing something wrong. It means your nervous system is adjusting to a new baseline. Peace will feel unfamiliar at first. Quiet will feel heavy. You will catch yourself checking your phone, rehearsing conversations, or wondering if you could have handled it differently. These are withdrawal symptoms from a dynamic that kept you in a constant state of emotional alert. They will pass. You do not need to analyze them. You just need to keep moving forward. Every time you choose your limit over the urge to explain, every time you step away instead of defending your right to peace, you rebuild your internal structure. You are retraining your nervous system to trust your own judgment. You will also notice that your past interactions begin to make sense in a new way. You will see how often you were asked to carry the emotional weight of the relationship. You will recognize the moments you compromised your values to keep the peace. You will understand why you felt so tired, even when nothing dramatic was happening. It was the quiet erosion of your self-trust that drained you. The constant second-guessing, the mental editing, the unspoken rule that her reality always took priority. None of that was your failure. It was your attempt to survive an environment that demanded your submission, disguised as cooperation. You adapted because you are resilient. But adaptation is not the same as alignment. You do not have to keep surviving a situation that you are now ready to outgrow. Moving forward does not require anger. It does not require cutting off everyone in your life or declaring yourself immune to connection. It simply requires honesty about what you will no longer tolerate. It means you stop asking people to prove they respect you. You start requiring it. You stop waiting for apologies that never come. You start protecting your energy as if it matters, because it does.
You stop measuring your worth by how much you can endure. You start measuring it by how well you honor your own limits. This shift is quiet. It does not come with loud declarations. It comes with small, consistent choices. It comes with leaving a conversation when the tone shifts. It comes with not responding to messages designed to pull you back into old patterns. It comes with allowing silence to exist instead of filling it with justification. It comes with realizing that you do not need to be understood by someone who benefits from your confusion. There will be moments when you doubt yourself. That is part of the process. Healing is not linear. You will have days where the clarity feels solid, and days where the old habits try to return. When that happens, return to the basics. Remind yourself that you are not responsible for managing her emotions. Remind yourself that disrespect is a choice, not a reflection of your value. Remind yourself that boundaries are not walls to keep people out. They are gates to protect what is inside you. You do not owe anyone access to your peace. You do not owe anyone your compliance in exchange for moments of kindness. You are allowed to step away from situations that require you to abandon yourself. You are allowed to choose environments where your presence is valued, not used. You are allowed to take up space without apology. The goal is not to become hardened. The goal is to become clear. Clarity allows you to engage with others from a place of choice rather than fear. It allows you to recognize healthy dynamics when they appear. It allows you to walk away from unhealthy ones without guilt or second-guessing. You will notice that your relationships begin to change naturally. People who respect your limits will stay. People who rely on your compliance will fade. This is not a loss. It is a filtering process. You are not losing connection. You are making room for alignment. And alignment does not require you to shrink. It requires you to show up as you are, with your limits intact, your energy protected, your self-respect non-negotiable. You have already done the hardest part. You recognized the pattern. You questioned the dynamic. You refused to accept the version of reality that blamed you for your own exhaustion. That awareness is the foundation of everything that comes next. From here, the work is simple. Keep your boundaries clear. Keep your actions consistent. Keep your focus on your own well-being. Do not wait for permission to prioritize yourself. Do not wait for an apology to validate your experience. Do not wait for someone else to change before you decide what you will no longer tolerate. You have the right to protect your peace. You have the right to step away from disrespect. You have the right to build a life where your energy is met with reciprocity, not extraction. As you move forward, carry this understanding with you. You are not broken for needing respect. You are not difficult for having limits. You are not cold for stepping back from chaos. You are simply learning how to honor the truth of your own experience. That truth does not require validation from the people who caused you to doubt it. It only requires your own quiet agreement. Let your actions reflect that agreement. Let your boundaries stand without apology. Let your peace be non-negotiable. The confusion will fade. The exhaustion will lift. You will find yourself breathing easier, thinking clearer, and moving through your days with a steady sense of grounding. You will realize that you do not need to fix what was never yours to carry. You only need to continue choosing yourself, one calm decision at a time. And in that choice, you will find the strength you have been looking for. You already have it. You just needed permission to use it.